All right, guys. Well, hey, first off, any questions that you have, am I looking at the screen? Nowhere anymore. Any questions that you have, stop me, please, in the middle of everything. This is more of a question and answer than it is a slideshow, as this is more just so you guys understand what closing costs are as you go about explaining and talking to your buyers. So it is helpful when you're starting out, as a lot of people want to know what they're bringing to closing. So just so you know what you're talking about when you talk to them. So let me share some things with you. Kind of what I just figured. Can you guys see my screen on the Zoom? No, I never shared my screen, did I? Share screen. There you go. What about now? Can you see my screen? Someone give me a head. Yep, thank you. Cool. All right, so all I'm going to do today, go over what is called fee worksheets for everyone, which is essentially just the what your buyer sees when we have a consultation meeting. This is what I show them so they know what they are looking at, what fees are included in buying a house and the mortgage, and so that they know where their money's going. And so any questions that you have when I'm talking, seriously, please stop me, type in the chat, shout out. I like when people yell at me. So stop me in the middle of it, but I'll get going. I just figured I'd go over a conventional loan, an FHA loan, a VA loan, and then an MHDC loan, so you guys can see all the different types of loans in case you have anyone in any of the spectrums. You know what you're talking about when you talk to them. So we'll start conventional. Let's see if I can make this full screen because it's probably small for all y'all. Let me minimize this. I want to see people's faces though. It's going to be a struggle. Okay. Can you guys see? Is it coming up big so you can actually see what I'm looking at on my screen? This worksheet, can you guys see that on your computer? Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you, Elizabeth. There we go. There's some faces. I love when I see people's faces. It makes it feel like I'm not talking to a camera. Okay. All right, so we'll get started. Let me hide it. I'm going to hide you guys. Oh, there we go. Chris showing faces too. I'm not hiding it because of that. All right, so all this is that you are looking at is a fee worksheet for a conventional loan. And what that is it's all the costs of the loan in one sheet that we send to your borrower. So when we go through it, like I said, just stop me with anything that you guys have questions on. This is a conventional loan, a $400,000 sale price, and they're putting 10% down. This actually is a buyer that I talked to last night. I asked for permission to share this. So they said, yeah, cool. So just a normal loan, someone with great credit, a conventional is usually anyone with above a 680 credit score. We like to get conventional. In your guys' market, you want a conventional loan as it's more competitive because the appraisal is not as strenuous to get into. So when you have conventional loan, the only fee that we have as a lender is these two fees right here. This administration fee of $395 and a fixed loan fee of $795. So a total of $1,190 is the only actual cost as Fairway, as the lender that we have for doing the loan. That is to just pay our underwriters, our closers, our team in order to get the loan to closing. That's the only fee that's charged by the lender. Each lending company, this fee varies a very little bit. It's usually anywhere between $1,000. I've seen one that's $1,500. So we're kind of right in that middle range. But when you hear people saying they want to shop, besides the rate, they want to look at fees. The only fee that should be any different between lenders is this fee right here of the administration fee. Everything else should be very, very similar because there's not really any way to change those. That is just the requirements for getting a house and a mortgage. So this is your one-time fee right here. After that, you have an appraisal fee. When you pay for an appraisal, the way that it works is that we do it at Fairway. Some lenders are different, but at Fairway, what we do is you pay for the appraisal at closing. We get a credit card. We put a credit card down on file at the beginning of the transaction, but you never actually pay for the appraisal until you close. If you don't end up closing on the house, but you still have ordered the appraisal, you will have to pay for that. That's why we get a credit card down, but you'll never have to pay for it until closing. So you have a one-time appraisal fee of $400. Flood cert is just certifying that you're not in a flood zone. And then the appraisal admin fee of $120 is added to the top end of the appraisal for the appraiser's admin. So it's around $520 to get an appraisal done in Kansas City right now. Okay. Then we go over to the other side, and these are the title fees. So we have an escrow fee of $325, which is title just setting up your escrow account. These will change a little bit. I'll show you the title breakdown chart at the end, which is based off, I'll show you it now in a second, but it just basically breaks down what the difference is between the purchase price. The higher the purchase price, the more fees there are from title. Just like anything, the bigger the loan, the bigger the house, the more fees there are. So higher the purchase price, the bigger these could get, but this is what they start out as. A one-time fee of $325 for escrow, setting up your escrow account. A lender's title fee of $275, which that is just the title insurance to the title company that ensures that they are getting on title. A recording fee of $8, and this recording fee of $412 is just recording your name on the deed and the note, so the title becomes yours. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So all of these added together is the actual cost of doing the loan, around $2,700. Does that make sense? So you have your one-time fee from us, all your title fees, and then your appraisal fee. All of those added together is around $2,700. That's the actual cost of doing the loan. Okay, you're buying a mortgage. However, you have to collect what we call prepaids or insurance in your escrow now as well. And so it's also called prepaids. They go along with closing costs. Okay. What this is when you close on a home, you set up what's called an escrow account. Do you guys know what an escrow account is?
Mm-hmm.
What's an escrow account, Cam?
Escrow accounts where earnest money checks get deposited.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep.
Through a title company.
Yep.
I believe.
It's one of, yep. There you go. So when you hear escrow, you hear it a lot. And it's a little bit different in the mortgage world. It's all the same thing. But when you hear escrow, just think a big savings account. Okay. So an escrow account, when it comes to a borrower, is each month in your mortgage payment, you pay principal and interest, taxes, homeowner's insurance, and mortgage insurance. Okay. Your homeowner's insurance and taxes each month, you are paying into this escrow. And so each time you make a payment, your taxes and insurance are paying into this escrow or savings account. So when the taxes come due at the end of the year, and in December in Missouri, and then in April and December in Kansas, you don't have to worry about that as the buyer. You just have to keep making a mortgage payment, and they will do it for you. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So what you're doing at closing is you are setting up, right here on this right, is setting up this escrow account of putting in what we call reserves. What that is after you purchase a home, the following year, your taxes and your insurance usually go up because of the home purchase, your appraised value goes up. And so your taxes, if they go up, instead of being hit with a payment shock of all of a sudden, oh my gosh, my payment goes up $100 a month, we have these reserves in here in this escrow or savings account that you can deposit into your account, or so you're not hit with the payment shock come December. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So this number right here is yours. This $1,200 for the initial deposit is your money into escrow, but you have to collect that at closing.
It's like security.
It's a security, essentially, yes. Over here to the left, you have what is called per diem interest or daily interest. What that is you collect interest from, let's say you close July 15th. Okay, you buy a house now, you get under contract, close July 15th. You don't have to make a payment for July or August. Your first payment is September 1. Okay, so you can skip your first 2 months of payments. However, you have to collect interest for that first month from the day you close until the last day of the month. And so if you close on the 15th, you collect 15 days at whatever the interest rate is for that loan, and you collect that at closing. Your second month's completely free, but that first month you have to pay interest on top on your loan. Does that make sense? So if you close on July 1st, you would collect 30 days of interest here of that $28.
Mm-hmm.
If you close on July 30th, you would collect 1 day of interest only, so this number would go down, your closing costs would be less. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
One thing to remember though, when you have a buyer, is it doesn't matter if they close July 1st or July 31st, that counts as July. Your first payment will be not July, so July and August, your first payment will be September 1, even if you close the 1st or 31st. So if you want to have a buyer that wants to miss 2 payments, yes, their interest will be more, but they can close and not pay mortgage for July or August. Does that make sense?
If they close at the middle of the month.
They can close whenever, but July, the month counts the month. So if you close on August 1st, you get to miss August and September, first payment's October 1.
Right.
If you close on August 31st, you get to miss August and September, first payment's still October.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So if they want to feel like they're missing 2 payments, try to close them earlier in the month.
Okay.
Does that make sense for everyone online? Cool. Any questions so far? See one in the chat. Whoa. Oh, it's in this. Cool. All right, we'll keep going then. So a lot of your costs, as you can see, is paying for your homeowner's insurance. Homeowner's insurance. You pay at closing your homeowner's insurance your first year. You get to shop that around, figure out whoever you want to use. You pay that at closing for the first year, and then your escrow pays that for all the following years. But you do have to pay for that one-time homeowner's insurance. So if you get a cheaper premium than what is estimated here, we'll change this number to $1,200 and you'll bring $400 less to closing. Okay? Down here to the left is just your estimated monthly payment that they'll see. So you have your principal and interest. When I was talking about the escrow account, your homeowner's insurance or hazard insurance, same thing. And taxes in your monthly payment, each of these are going into that escrow. So when it comes time to be due the next year, you have that to pay. Estimated total monthly payment. This $6,000 or $45 is the total of your prepaids and your closing costs. So to do a $400,000 loan with 10% down, you're estimating around $6,000 in closing costs. Does that make sense for a conventional loan? So you come over here. I'm minimizing this. As you can see here, this is just a breakdown of all what the closing costs look like. So $400,000 purchase plus the closing cost from page 1, this $2,700 right here, plus the setting up the escrow, the reserves, and your homeowner's insurance. So you have the $406,000 minus whatever your loan amount is, gets you to your cash to close. So around $46,000. They're putting 10% down on a $400,000 house, $40,000 in down payment, $6,000 in closing. Does that make sense? One thing to remember, this is actually big. If you guys want to write this part down, remember this part, because they'll ask you about estimates. They'll be like, what do I estimate for closing costs? And you have calculators, you have different things. If you're buying a $200,000 house, just say you're around $5,000 in closing costs. Okay? Obviously, these will be a little bit different, but everything varies a little bit, but this would be right around where it is. At $200,000, you're looking around $5,000 in closing costs. If you want to find your cash to close on that, then you will just do whatever your purchase price is times the down payment amount, add $5,000. That's what you can tell your buyers.
Say that one more time.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Please.
so let's say you buy a $200,000 house. Okay, $5,000 is what you're estimated for closing.
Right.
If you want, so let's say they're putting 5% down.
Okay.
5% down of $200,000 is $10,000, right?
Right.
So the way you can figure out real quickly in your head what their cash to close is whatever their down payment is. So they say, I'll put down 5%. 200,000 times 0.05 is $10,000. Add $5,000 to top of it. Roughly, they're bringing in $15,000.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
$300,000 purchase price, you're looking right around $5,500 in closing costs. $5,500.
Okay.
And then 400,000, as you see here, is 6,000. So every $100,000 is about a $500 jump in closing costs. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So for like $300,000, all right, so we'll do this. If you have $300,000 purchase with 10% down, okay? The buyer wants to know what they're bringing. What would they bring?
If they have 10% down,
Of 300,000,
that's 30 grand.
okay? Plus what closing costs at 300?
So plus, you said 55?
Yep.
5,500, so 35,500, right?
35.5, that's what your buyer's gonna be looking at in your closing, okay? Does that make sense? It's just super easy, simple math that you can do in your head on the fly, so your buyers kind of have an idea roughly what they're doing at closing. With that, one question that comes up that is good for newer agents to know, when you see an earnest deposit, okay? Whatever that is, so 1% of your purchase price, so let's say these people, they put $4,000 down in earnest, that gets taken out of these closing costs or your down payment already. And so instead of bringing this 46, they'll be bringing 42,000 because they've already put down that 1% earnest. Does that make sense? Any questions on closing costs? I went over it kind of quickly.
I have one question.
Yep. Yes.
Traditionally, I was, well, the calculation is, the closing cost is between 1.5% to 2.5%.
Mhm.
But I think your take is more accurate. So if you buy $200,000, closing is about $5,000. And every additional 100,000 add $500. Is that what you're saying?
Correct, yep. The one thing that could change it is if their homeowner's insurance premium, if the house is old and needs a new roof or anything, because we do collect the full year's homeowner's insurance. If this number, the 16,800 here, changes to 2,000, well, then you have to add $400 to closing. But if it's at the estimates of where it
Right
should
there.
be, then yes. Yep.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, thank you.
absolutely.
Cool.
I had a question
Yes, ma'am.
on the administration fee for the appraisal. What's that?
That is strictly
The 100.
yep, so each appraiser usually has an admin or a team that contacts the appraisal, that contacts the appraiser to schedule these services. That is a fee that goes to the appraiser. So we break down each appraiser, what their admin fee is, and we bring that to it. So it's around $520 total. A lot of people, they just say one-time fee of an appraisal fee of $520. We break it down into two to show exactly where it's going.
So Frisco Lender Services is the appraisal company, and then the actual appraiser gets the 400. Is that it?
Correct. Yep. Yep. That's exactly what it is.
Okay. And then when you go down to initial escrow, is that that's their initial earnest deposit of 1,200?
So that right here, no, that is just
Yeah,
these,
100.
that's these two added together, the 280 and the 920.
Oh,
What that
okay.
is I did not cover that good enough. All right, good question. So when you close, we have to collect 2 months of reserves of whatever your taxes and homeowners insurance is monthly. In case your taxes or insurance go up next year, that's when you're not hit with that payment shock of, oh my gosh, I owe $1,000 because my taxes.
Okay.
So then we can add that to it and supplement it. So then your payment doesn't go up drastically. It's just a cushion in your escrow in case there's an increase in the future. This money is yours, the buyers, that they get a hold on to, but it's just sitting in that escrow or savings account in case that happens in the future. When you sell your home or refinance, everything in this escrow account goes back to you.
Okay.
Did I lose you guys?
So on this, no, I get that. So anywhere on this sheet, is there earnest deposit?
It will be, there's not right now because they haven't put an earnest down. It will be on my next one because they've already closed their loan. But normally all it is all it does is get subtracted out right down here. There's just another line right here that says earnest deposit minus another 4,000. So then that number goes down to 200 or whatever it is.
Okay, yeah, you said that. Okay.
Yep, so it's just added at the end once we can't add it to a worksheet until they've actually made the deposit and we have proof of the deposit. Then it gets added to it at the end. So, okay. I'm going to share now. That's a conventional loan, okay? Now I'm going to share an FHA loan so you guys can see why it's better to go conventional and FHA. And it's all in the closing costs and the appraisal. But the main thing is closing costs. So as you see here, this is the exact same thing, essentially, as a $350,000 purchase, okay? Same fee, $795, $395. Same everything, same 400. So as you can see here, Sally, this is who the appraisal was. This is his services. And so it just fills in when it gets completed. Same charges over here, $275, $350. This has an updated number in the title insurance because it's a bigger purchase and they had to get their numbers down to exactly what it looks like. So anytime title adds fees, it goes just right over here. As you can see, their title insurance went up, their recording fee went way down, so it equals out essentially right where it was before. These are not required. They chose to do these. HOA fee, admin fee to whoever their company, their realtor was, home warranty. So none of that is anything to do with us. That's just additional charges that they did not have to do, but they chose to. Does that make sense? So as you can see, everything stays the same as FHA that we just went over. Here's where it gets different. When you get to prepaids, same interest that we talked about, right? The 13 days, they close on the 17th, I believe. And so they collected 13 days of interest. This mortgage insurance premium to HUD, $5,800. That's a lot of money, right? What that is when you do an FHA loan for mortgage insurance, they collect 1.75% of the loan amount up front for mortgage insurance for giving you the loan. So whatever 1.75% is of whatever your total loan amount is, they collect that up front. You don't pay it, it gets financed into your loan. So it doesn't, you don't feel the shock of it, but when you sell your house, it adds another $6,000 that you could be getting back at closing of your house. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So the big difference between FHA and conventional is they collect this amount at closing, this 1.75% of the loan amount, and they collect 0.85% monthly. As you see down here, $220 a month plus this $5,800. So it's a lot of money to do an FHA loan. So as a buyer, you try to steer away from that because you don't want to be hit with this $5,800 or this $219 a month. That when you buy a conventional loan, that mortgage insurance also falls off when you hit 80% loan to value or 20% down. Your mortgage insurance is gone forever, the PMI. FHA, it stays on forever. And so you have this $5,800 at closing, this $219 a month, and it never ever goes away, where conventional will go away. So you try to steer away from FHA because of this mortgage insurance premium. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So when you have a buyer, sometimes it's the only thing they qualify for. So they just want a house, they have bad credit, they don't have very much to put down, or their debt to income ratio is high. Yeah, they qualify FHA, they just want a house, we'll do it. No big deal. But we do show them this every single time so they know what they are doing. You know, a lot of times they're like, well, I'm gonna be in this house. It doesn't matter that if I add this to the top end of my loan, I'll never really notice it. But they are.
So the mortgage insurance stays with the lifetime of the loan. It never falls off. Even
never falls off for the FHA. This $219 will stay on forever, and this amount will always be added to the top end of your loan. So pretty big difference compared to conventional, where let's say you buy a house and in 5 years, or in this market, if it appreciates 10% in a year, you can refinance and your mortgage insurance is basically gone. Well, for this, you're never falling off, and that's costing quite a bit of money monthly.
So it's a good idea to call all your clients who has FHA. It's a good time if in financial status improved, to refinance to a conventional loan. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yep. If they got their credit score up to above 680 or wherever it qualifies conventional, it would be a very smart thing to do to see if they want to refinance. And it's a good touch because it's just like, hey, I saw your house value went up by 12% right now. You can probably refinance and get out of this FHA where you don't have to pay mortgage insurance forever. Obviously, this amount, this mortgage insurance premium, that's already added to the loan, so they can't get that out of it, but it could save them $219 a month pretty quickly. So it's very, very wise to do. That's very smart, Kevin. Actually, it's an easy touch because you're adding value to these buyers of yours. So everything else stays the exact same. You're collecting for the homeowner's insurance, they collected 3 months because of when it closed. Normally it's 2 and 2. They do have right here, if you see this aggregate adjustment, what that is you guys won't really have to ever explain this. You don't really have to know, but just so you understand what it is. What that is let's say you close a loan, whatever month it is in August, or I think this was December. They will adjust it based off your tax and insurance. So like the day that you close, the sellers will pay for the first half or whenever they were in the house. and then they will adjust it back so you only have to pay for the second half of when you're in the house. Does that make sense? So let's say you close August 15th. The sellers will pay for tax and insurance from January 1 all the way through August 15th. You won't be brought on until August 15th, so they give you an adjustment or a credit back to you for whatever that difference is.
Mhm.
Does that make sense at all?
So, yeah.
So as you see here, total cost of doing the loan is around the exact same thing. It's $350,000 house. They're at 5,818. The reason it is that is because they added about $200 right here, or it would have been around $5,600, which is right on the $5,500 mark. But they did have that mortgage insurance premium that was financed. That mortgage insurance premium is quite a bit of money that's added to it. So your closing costs kind of stay the exact same. Does that make sense? I just really wanted to explain what the difference in closing costs is for FHA and conventional, because it's a big thing to know for your buyers that are trying to look FHA. They do need to know where their money's going. I explain it to them. Obviously, it's not your guys' job. It's my job more to explain it to them. But it is nice to know when you're talking to them. So if they ask what's the difference, you know real quickly. Does that make any sense? Any questions on FHA?
Actually, I had a question to what you just said, like with all this financing and stuff, everything you went over, you said, is that our job to explain all this, or do we just refer them to you to explain it all?
Yep, great question. So this is what I go over when I have my buyer's consultation like you guys have. I go over this sheet with them. I go over rates. I go everything with them. So you don't have to. That is my job. All I'm doing now is explaining this so you know what is on when I'm talking to your buyers. When I tell them they owe $5,800 in closing, you at least have an understanding of what it is. But no, you will not be in charge of going over this sheet whatsoever. That is my job as a lender to do. All you really need to know is the estimate that I was saying earlier of around 200,000 is 5K, 300,000 is 5,500, 400,000 is around $6,000 in closing costs, just so you can kind of give your buyers an idea of what it is. And then when they reach out to me after you guys talk, I'll explain exactly what it is.
So it's $500 for every 100,000 it goes up, right?
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now, what if they get in something that's under 200, like say 100,000? Oh, I was like a couple minutes late, so I just missed that beginning part.
Yeah, so the exact same thing. 100,000, it goes down to 4,500. So it keeps dropping every $100,000 by $500 a month, or by $500 total.
Oh, okay. So it'll drop down if they go up, if the house is under 200,000. So if it was 100,000.
Yep,
okay, I think
4,500. So let's say, for instance, that if you buy a house for 100,000, you're putting 5% down. You have around, that means you're bringing $5,000 as a down. You would add $4,500 to that for the total cost of doing the loan or buying a house. So it'd be around $9,500 to get in the house cash to close.
okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So yeah, as long as you guys know the estimates, just know I will explain where the money's going, but it's at least nice to know in the back of your head where their money's going as well, in case they have questions. But the main thing for the difference between conventional and FHA is just knowing that FHA has that upfront mortgage insurance that charges them 1.75% of the loan, and the mortgage insurance never falls off for the life of the loan. And we go over all that with them, but it is nice to know so you know what it looks like.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. I'll go over real quickly. I'm just going to go over. Does any of you guys ever think you'll run into a VA loan? Veteran?
Think that we will? Or
Yeah,
have?
you may. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
you may.
probably.
All right, then we'll go over VA real quick, just so you can see it. Everything's the exact same. VA is a great loan. A very, very good loan if you qualify as a veteran. Why? Because you could put 0% down. I texted this guy last night, asked him if I could use this sheet. He actually got money back when he bought this house, which you'll see in a second. It's pretty cool. So what this is a VA worksheet. This $995, this changed. Ours now $1195 because of COVID. So this changed, this was our old fee, now it's up a little bit, it's gonna probably go back down in the next year or so, just so you guys know, but it's 1190 is where it's at now. So what this is, when you see this origination point, okay, is, let me make sure, yeah, is he bought down his rate. When you hear buying down a rate, that means that you can pay essentially whatever percent this is of your loan amount, and you can get your interest rate lower, okay? So his rate was at 349, he bought it down to 3375. Does that make sense? You can buy down an interest rate, it just costs you a percentage of your loan amount. I explained that to your buyers, it's a pretty complicated formula where they get up this percentage of exactly what it is, but it's up to them how much they want to buy down, which is called a discount point. Yep, it's buying a discount point. So that's exactly what he did here. That's why you see the 675 charge. Once again, you don't have to do that. He chose to do that. Appraisal fee, as you can see, $500. 150 is what her inspection cost was instead of that 120, so it was a little bit more for her. Everything else stayed the same. His title charges were a little bit more expensive. His title insurance was a little more expensive, but his recording fees were lower, so it equals out. Also, his settlement statement fees, all these fees were a little bit lower than what we had. So as you can see, once you get the title in, we break it down compared to just the 1 or 2 fees that you see from the beginning. So his total cost, because he bought that point, is around the 3,100. Make sense? Okay. Everything looks the same here. This is where it changes. This VA funding fee, okay? This is really what I want to show you guys. Is with VA, if you're buying a loan for the first time, then you have a 2.7% of your loan amount funding fee that is charged to the top end of the loan, like that upfront premium with FHA. It's an upfront premium for this called the VA funding fee for funding the VA loan. Does that make sense? So 2.7% of your loan amount is what it is. However, if you look down here, you don't have mortgage insurance in a VA loan. And so he put down 0%, but he had this funding fee added to the top end. $7,000 over the whole course of his loan is essentially $30 a month. So mortgage insurance was $30 a month, but as you can see here, it does not, you have nothing monthly for it. You're just paying principal and interest.
Because he bought those discount points.
Correct. Yep. So everything else stayed the exact same. The funding fee is the only difference in a VA loan. They collected the 3 months home insurance, 2 months taxes, just as the last one, to get your number 1,200. And when you come down here, here's where it gets cool. Monthly payment, you can see here. The closing costs, everything is a little more expensive because of that funding fee, but it gets taken out, as you'll see over here. So the purchase price is $300,000. With the VA loan, you can put 0% down, right? So purchase price $300,000. Closing costs, because he bought those points, were a little bit higher. Prepays right around here. The discounts that he bought, and then that funding fee is the total cost of your loan. So the total cost of the loan is $314,000. Okay. The sellers decided that they were going to pay for X percentage of his closing costs because he got in the house. So they paid for $5,000 in closing costs of his. Then the funding fee was financed. So essentially, he only had to bring $1,800 cash to close on this 0% down loan because the sellers paid for closing costs. And the only reason he brought that in was because at the very last second, he decided to do the discount. Otherwise, he was going to be in a house for under $1,000. So it's pretty cool if you can get sellers to pay for closing costs. What that looks like when you have, just a side note, for a conventional loan, a seller can only pay 3% of the purchase price for closing costs. Okay, so let's say if you buy a $200,000 house, they can only fund up to $6,000 in closing costs. Closing costs are never going to be that much. But when you start to get to those lower prices, that's when it starts to juggle, because if you buy a $100,000 house, 3% of that's only $3,000, where your closing costs are $4,500. Does that make sense?
3%.
Yeah. So conventional, it's 3% of closing costs. is what you can get from for sellers to pay. FHA, you
A quick question, Tanner. FHA, you also charge the mortgage insurance a lump sum, but you said that goes because they're still paying monthly mortgage insurance. You say that they can get that amount back when they sell the house. That goes to the principal. Is that right, or am I getting it wrong?
for FHA or VA?
FHA.
No, FHA, that amount that you paid up front is just added to your loan amount. That amount is gone. It's just, it makes your loan amount bigger. You will never get that back.
So it's also added to the loan. You can finance that. You're still paying that. You're just paying monthly.
Correct.
Added to the.
Yep.
For VA is the same. If you choose to add that amount to the finance, you can. You don't have to pay it in closing, but you can ask to if I finance and just pay over the years. Is that right?
Yep. Or you can pay it out of
Okay.
pocket. You can pay however much of the funding fee you want out of pocket as well. You can pay up to
Okay.
If you want to pay $3,000 of that, you could. But yes, great question, Kevin. It's just finance.
Okay, thank you. That's finance. They're all finance. Thank you.
All finance. Yep. So does that make sense?
I have a question.
Yep. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi. So if you qualify for conventional, you have good credit, you want to put 20% down, you don't want the PMI. Is there any reason that you would choose VA over conventional? Are there any benefits to
If
VA
you're
over?
putting 20% down, no.
Right.
No, it's not. I would always go conventional that route. VA,
Okay.
yeah, the only way you want to go VA is if you're wanting to try to get the 0 to 5% down. But if you're going to if you can qualify conventional and you can go up to 10 or 20% down, it's cheaper to do conventional than VA. But if it's less than 10%, you'll probably want to do VA. And I'll show both the buyers the information. It's more competitive in this market because the VA appraisal is harder like you always have corrections on VA appraisals. I mean, they have to come back out and inspect the house again. And so it's almost worse sometimes on a selling standpoint because the VA appraisers, what they have to do is they say that it's safe for a veteran to live there. So they have to clear it if there's no handrails, if there's any loose steps, if there's any wood flooring that's like a little crack in it, you have to fix all that because if it's not deemed safe for a veteran, you can't live in it. Does that make sense for the appraisal? But to answer your question, sorry, I got a little sidetracked on that. But anything over 10%, you probably be looking conventional. Anything less than you may want to look at VA. So, one more I'm going to show you just because first, as a lot of you guys are just starting out, some of your first-time home buyers will use this program. It's the MHDC program. Have you guys ever heard of that? It's a 0% down Missouri loan, where essentially you can get a secondary mortgage that covers all your closing costs. Okay, so you have to put down 3% or 3.5%. Let's see. Check. Thanks, Sally. Cool. You have to put down 3.5%, whichever if you're going conventional or FHA, but you can get closing costs back in the form of a secondary loan. That can go up to 4% of whatever your loan amount is. Does that make sense?
So you get those.
So you get that back plus covering some of the closing costs. So you put down 3%, but you get the 3% back. Or you put down 3%, you get the 4% back. So it covers all your down payment plus a little bit of closing costs. I'm going to show you why it's not always a great idea unless it's the only option possible. Okay? And this is why. This is a buyer I just closed last week. You have the origination fee, the application fee is the exact same, at $1,100, $795, and $395. MHDC, this is why it's tough. MHDC charges a 1% origination fee on top of that just for doing the MHDC loan. So the bigger the loan amount, the higher this amount will be. So if you have a $300,000 MHDC purchase, you're going to be paying $3,000 right there in closing costs that you're essentially wiping out almost the 4% that you're getting down for the down payment. Does that make sense? So you do get charged this 1% fee. So your total, instead of being $1,100, you're already at $3,000 before you even start the process of the loan. This one was an FHA, so it was a little funky where they had to come back out and do a property. They had to relook at the property a couple times. Plus the appraisal costs more. So you can see he got charged with a lot of fees right here for doing an FHA MHDC. However, it's the only way he could buy the house. He didn't have enough down. This is literally the only way he could buy the house if he wanted to buy the house. So he chose MHDC.
Kind of put that much down
What?
because he kind of put a whole
He
lot
didn't
down.
have any money to put down. He had what the exact amount that we could get in the loan for. So title fees all stayed the same, just broken down. But you can see this number was around 2,700 before. It's all the way up to 4,620 because of that 1% origination charge that MHDC charges. Okay.
So this is the only loan that charges that low origination fee, correct?
Yes. Like FHA and all that, they have their upfront mortgage
Right,
insurance.
right.
This is an actual fee because when you're disclosing this as a buyer's agent, you just have to disclose that it's a conventional or FHA loan. You can disclose MHDC, most do, but you're not required to because you're essentially doing a conventional or MHDC or FHA loan, but then you're just having a second mortgage come in on the back end and pay for closing costs.
Right.
So, which doesn't bother the sellers whatsoever. Right. So, FHA is before, so you can see he also had that mortgage insurance premium to HUD. That 3,400 was that same 1.75% of FHA. Collected 3 months of homeowners insurance. They collected 9 months of property taxes. That's not right. Oh, but the sellers paid for 6 months of it because they just moved in June. So they collected 9 months, the sellers paid for 6 months because it was in June instead of, so it was for 6 months they paid for, but they collected 3 months of escrow. So, as you can see, normal FHA loan, everything's the exact same as an FHA loan. Where it's different, and this is where you can see the benefits of MHDC, is the cost of the loan is they are higher costs. You can see the closing costs cost them almost $8,000 in closing costs. However, he got the second mortgage right here from MHDC for $79.53. So he covered almost all of his closing costs because of the second mortgage of 4% of the loan amount that came. So he only had to bring $6,000 to close. So MHDC, it's yes, if it's the only option possible in person get a house. Now, also this is an FHA loan. If it was conventional, it would make almost more sense, right? Or if it's a higher loan amount, sometimes it does make sense because you get 4% of the total loan amount. So if it's $250,000 loan, 4% of that's a lot more than 4% of $100,000, right? However, it costs a lot more because you have this 1% fee right here of whatever the loan amount is. So you see right here, his loan amount was $195,412, cost him $195,412. So it does cost to get that secondary help, but here's where it is but you can get in a house for cheaper. Last thing I'll share real quick, and then because that is mostly all the loan types that you guys will miss. Kansas, if you close a loan in Kansas, they have a 0% down program. It's called the Kansas Housing Assistance Program. It's a little bit better than MHDC. Exact same thing where they you can get up a grant or aid. It's not a second mortgage, it's just aid from the government. So it's cheaper. But they do have a program as well in Kansas that you can do. Last thing I'll show is just, this is Platinum. I got this from Courtney today. This is Platinum's fees that they charge for their their title insurance, which you guys saw. You can get a kind of pricey, and it always equals out somehow to be right around what we estimate. But as you can see, this is whatever the purchase price of the home is right over here. So go to 200,000, you're looking around 531 total for Missouri. Kansas is right underneath it. Shrink out of this a little bit. Well, it's really tiny, but I can see it. But if you just ask title, they can get this for you. This is Platinum fees for their title insurance. So as you can see, it changes per loan amount all the way up to, they go up to 700,000, and then it's a special case after that. Cool. So that's really it for closing costs. All you guys really need to know on your guys' end is know where we're getting the estimates, what you can tell your buyers, what you can tell them. 200,000, you're looking around $5,000. 300,000, 5,500, 400,000, 6,000, 500,000, 6,500, 100,000, 4,500, right? Know your estimates. Once you send them to me or whoever your lender is, hopefully it's me, right? I'll break down the worksheet with them where they understand exactly what it's looking like, where their money's going, because that's the main thing they need to know when you're first time home buyer or any buyer is, okay, I have this much money, what do I do with it? What do I need to do? And then we can go over the difference between 5% down, 10% down, what makes more sense for each person. But any questions on closing costs and what goes into it?
Not on this matter, but just, what's the formula for closing cost on refi?
Refi is the exact same. You're restarting your mortgage. And so it's almost the exact same. That's a great question, Kevin. The only thing that changes with a refi is this initial escrow setup is right here. How we're collecting just enough for reserves, you have to restart your escrow account when you're refinancing your home because you're getting a brand new mortgage. And
So you're saying we can also buy down points and at the refi?
Yep, you can buy down points to everything you want. It's just the same as normal mortgage. And the
Okay.
thing refi is you can bring zero out of pocket because you can finance all the closing costs into your new loan amount. So most
Okay.
people bring zero out of pocket and they usually close, let's say you close in the beginning of July, you still get to miss those first 2 months of payments. And so
Okay.
usually without making those 2 month payments, if you're paying $2,000 a month, it costs you $5,000 to do the mortgage, but you're getting $4,000 back for missing 2 payments.
Okay.
Put that right down.
And we can change from 30-year to 15-year.
Yep.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Any other questions, anyone? Another good thing, Kevin, on refinances is whatever is in your escrow, within 30 days of closing, you'll get a check back. And so if you had $1,200 in your escrow account like this one had, you'll get a check back within 30 days of closing for whatever is in there. So that plus the 2 missed months of payments are usually about equal out for the cost of doing the loan. So. Any questions, anyone? Thank you all for joining me. There's actually a decent amount of people today, so thank you guys. I hate when it's just me.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Absolutely. If you guys have anything, text me or call me. I'll answer any questions that you guys have, or if you have a buyer that needs help on it, if you have any questions or need an estimate, give me a text or call.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
Thank you.